And at this time, I would like to introduce Hubert Ling. As noted earlier, we're very fortunate to have Hubert speaking here today, filling in for Gemma Milley, who had to miss our conference. Hubert started his love of nature when he had to pass a test to go to nature camp. I've always wondered what nature camp it was that made you take a test before you went to it, but regardless, this is what Hubert was faced with as a child. Eventually, this led him to a master's degree in botany, a Ph.D. in biology, and even an RN. He worked in both academia and industry, focusing on microbiology, mycology, botany, and general biology. He served on the board of the New Jersey Native Plant Society for 39 years and is a past president and is an avid native plant gardener. He shares his expertise far and wide as a consultant, speaker, field trip leader for various organizations. He's now retired, but never one to slow down. He's still an ESL instructor, our NPSNJ Horticulture Co-Chair. He's a monthly contributing writer for the Gardener News and spends a lot of time out on the trails with his wife, Millie, exploring native plants far and wide. Remember, everyone, as Hubert gets ready to speak, if you have any questions, please put them in Q&A. And Tara Howard, one of our co-leaders of the Southwest chapter, will be managing Q&A for Hubert when he finishes his presentation. There should be plenty of time for questions. And now, without further ado, Hubert, please, we're looking forward to you speaking to us about rare and uncommon plants of the New Jersey Piedmont.
Okay, we're getting ready here.
Very good. Thanks so much.
All righty, so talk will be on rare and uncommon. I put a couple of less rare plants in, so let's get started. Okay, where's the oh, where do you go? Next one.
Here, right there.
Oh, okay. All right, we're getting organized here. Okay, so the Piedmont. The Piedmont is a plateau and includes the foothills, includes all of Essex County, Hudson, Union, most of Bergen, Hunterdon, Somerset, and parts of Mercer, Middlesex, Morris, and Passaic. The red are the areas that we're going to talk more about. And we haven't visited Essex and Hudson and Passaic very much, so we're not going to have any plants from there, I'm sorry. So what's happened to our native flora? Well, in the 1600s, New Jersey was about 74% forest, and most of the rest was wetlands and water. Currently, we have 32% forests, and that doesn't look too bad, but especially in the 1850s and so forth, New Jersey was mostly farms and deforested. So we didn't have very many areas for the native plants. Currently, the forest is 32%, but the loss of native plants is quite severe, as we'll show you on the next slide. Okay, this is some data from the New York Metropolitan Flora Project. And as you can see, before 1990, we had 10 of these orchids here, the Aplectum hamali, 41 of Arethusa, 97 sites with Calopogon, 12 sites with Cypripedium regini, 57 sites with Cypripedium parviflorum, the yellow lady slipper. After 1990, we have one site here, 4 sites here, 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay, in total, 217 sites with orchids from A to C there in before 1990. 5 sites currently, loss of 98%. And this, I think, is pretty indicative of what's going on. We're losing an awful lot of plants. Now, why are we losing all these plants? Well, the speakers have gone over some of this. In the famous words of Pogo, the possum, we have met the enemy, and he is us. Human activities has done this, loss of habitat, introduction of invasive plants that we're basically responsible for, elimination of the predators for wolves, fire suppression, and so forth. So illegal poaching is another thing. So we are the problem. The ratings for native plants, rare native plants, are G 1 through 5 and S 1 through 5. G1 is globally imperiled, almost extinct. S1 is almost extirpated from New Jersey. G2 is rare, and S2 is rare. G3, S3 are rare. This is very rare, sorry. G4 is uncommon, and G5 and S5 are common. So we're going to take a look at the S1s, 2, 3, and just mention 2 of the S4s. So if we were going to take a walk in the Great Swamp or the Sour Lands, and we went on a 4-mile hike, you might expect to find about 50 S5 native plants, maybe 5 S4 plants, and no S3, S2, or S1. If we were to walk 500 miles in 40 parks with high ecological value, that's what we've been trying to do for the last 6 years. We would expect maybe 200 S5 plants, 20 S4 plants, 4 S3 plants, 2 S1 plants, no 2 S2 plants, and no S1 plants. So how can I give a talk on rare plants if we haven't seen very many of them? Okay, what you can do is go on a field trip. I suggest with the Philadelphia Botanical Club. New Jersey Native Plant Society also has a few field trips. You can go on iNaturalist to look for rare plants. You can look at the year-end reports and plant lists. We have an extensive list of plants on the awesome Native Plant Info website, which Millie and I run. You can ask a friend, and you can go to another state where these plants are common. That's where you can see them. In general, most people will not tell you where a rare plant is. We're trying to keep the locations private, and we won't tell you either. If you can find some native plants, maybe we can do a trade. You can give us one site and we'll tell you where another rare native plant is. But in general, we don't want to give the sites away because we don't want everybody trampling on the plants and digging them up and so forth. Okay, here's our first rare plant, Canadian anemone. It's a G5S1. It was located in Morris County at one time, and it's a beautiful plant. The only trouble with it is that it grows like crazy. I can't understand why it's an S1. But I have about 5,000 of these plants extra. If you're interested in any, you can take 4,990 of the slides. I've never seen it in the wild. It is an S1. Here's another S1 that's easy to grow, Greek valerian, G5 S1, globally secure, very rare in New Jersey. It was at one time present in Somerset, Hunterdon, and Mercer counties. It's a beautiful plant, very cheerful, very easy to grow, naturalizes by itself, forms a beautiful blue carpet in May. Many of the pollinators will utilize this for pollen and nectar. It's easy to buy and easy to grow, so it's a nice, interesting plant to have in your collection. Okay, here's another rare plant, Allegheny vine. It's a G4, so a little more globally rare. S2 was at one time in Somerset, Hunterdon, and Morris counties. The blue arrows are where the flowers are. It's fairly inconspicuous flowers. The vines are about 15 feet long. They form tangled mats. It grows on calcareous outcroppings. The location for this plant was given to us by the Philadelphia Botanical Club. iNaturalist lists 5 sites for this plant in New Jersey. Here's the flower, a little bit closer look. And if you look at this flower, it may remind you of its close relatives, squirrel corn, Dutchman's breeches, cordalis, and wild bleeding heart. Pollination, we think, is by bees. Nobody has ever observed it. So if you see one of these plants, take a look, see what's pollinating it, and let us know. We also think that it's self-pollinated quite often. Here's squirrel corn, which is a S1 plant, supposedly in Somerset, Hunterdon, and Mercer, but now very hard to find. It blooms in April and May and has nectar and pollen that attract all sorts of pollinators. The plants are toxic. The deer generally avoid them, and it's a spring ephemeral, so it goes dormant very early in summer. This plant is from North Carolina. That's the NC over there. And iNaturalist has 6 sites listed for New Jersey. We've never seen it, though. Okay, here are the leaves of squirrel corn. It looks an awful lot like Dutchman's breeches, which is a lot more common. Okay, next plant is wild calla, and it's a S3. It was at one time in Morris County. You can see the where it's growing by the moss over there. I can't seem to get the pointer. Oh, there it is. Really hard to get the pointer over. Here's the sphagnum moss. Grows in very wet areas. This plant was taken, the pictures were taken in at High Point. iNaturalist has 7 sites for this particular plant. Okay, wild calla is in the arum family. The male flowers are on top. Female flowers are the greener areas, and they're mixed in with other male flowers. Related to Jack in the Pulpit and skunk cabbage and so forth. And here is the fruit ripening in the fall and calling attention to itself. Red color says, eat me. Okay, here's another rare plant. It's a little bit less common on the global scale. It's a G545. S2 at one time in Hunterdon County. It grows in rich soil in the deep woods, and flower cluster is cone-shaped, as you can see here, kind of a large cone and fairly long. This picture was taken in North Carolina, but we do have the plant in New Jersey also. Here's one taken in New Jersey, down south. The leaves look like daylily leaves, a little bit wider than some of the other plants. And the entire plant is very, very poisonous. The bulbs are very toxic. Muscatoxin, for the species name, means fly poison. It was used by the Native Americans to kill crows, and the American settlers used it mixed with sugar to poison flies. It's very similar to turkey beard, which is our next slide. Okay, turkey beard looks an awful lot like fly poison. The flower head is a little more roundish, although it does extend down the stem a little bit, sort of cone-shaped. This is a pinelands plant, so I can't show it to you, so don't look. Okay, another plant is the rare plant is the slender toothwort, cardamine, and it's an S3 in Somerset and Hunterdon County, where we found it. It's a spring ephemeral. It has 2 basic types of leaves. the caudine leaves on the stem, which are deeply cut, and the rhizomal leaves on the bottom, which are not as deeply cut. They're both compound leaves. It's a spring ephemeral up to about 10 inches tall. The location for this was given to us by Gemma Milley. She was giving a field trip for the Philadelphia Botanical Club, and she was the one who was supposed to give this talk. Okay, here are the flowers for the slender toothwort. They're in the shape of a Greek cross, and it's in the cruciferæ or mustard family, which also includes cabbage, garlic mustard, and Dane's rocket. Blooms in April. iNaturalist has 10 sites. Here is another cardamine, rare cardamine, diphylla. Diphylla means 2 leaves, and I've labeled them there, 1 and 2. It's about 16 inches tall. It's a spring ephemeral also, and we found this one all by ourselves. It's only an S3, but we're very proud of that. Here's the flower, the typical crucifer flower. Okay, next slide is soapwort gentian, Gentiana saponaria, S3 in several counties, as you can see. It's about 6 inches to 2 feet tall, grows in very damp soil and in full sun or partial shade. The location that we found from iNaturalist. Okay, here's a close-up of soapwort gentian, and the flowers can be partially open as opposed to some of the other bottle gentian, which we'll talk about a little later. If the flower is completely closed, it can be pollinated by bumblebees, strong bumblebees, and they have to push their way through the top of the flower. And occasionally, some insect will attack the gentian from the side. They'll dig a hole in the side of the flower, and these are called nectar thieves, and they'll just go in and take the pollen take the nectar without pollinating the plant. These are beautiful plants, and they're very easy to grow, and they'll last until about now with a hard frost. Okay, here's the Pine Barrens gentian, which doesn't grow in this area at all, but I'm showing it because I want to show you the plates and the lobes. The Pine Barren gentian has a conspicuous plate in between the lobes of the petals. And this is how you differentiate many of the gentian from each other and related plants. The fringe gentian has no plates at all. The lobes of the petals are all separate from each other. Incidentally, Duke Gardens is doing a project on the Pine Barrens gentian restoration. And we mention that because they are in Somerset County. Okay, here's a bottle gentian, Gentiana androsii. It's listed as S2 by our DEP. The flowers come in pale blue and dark blue. It likes very wet soil, full sun or partial shade. And we found these all by ourselves in Morris County and Somerset County. Okay, and these are S2, so we're proud of ourselves. I think these should probably be rated as an S3 because iNaturalist lists 34 locations in New Jersey. So that would make it a little more common than most S2s. Okay, you can identify Gentiana androsii by the plates and the lobes. And you can see the plates stick up above the lobes, and the plates are pale with a little purple on top maybe, but mostly white. The lobes are much darker blue, and this differentiates Gentiana androsii from most of the other gentian. Okay, here's another one, bottle gentian, Gentiana clausa, G5. It's listed as an S4 on the DEP, and I think this should be actually an S2. That's my little star there. That's because there are only 12 locations in New Jersey listed on iNaturalist, and one site we know has been misidentified because we were there and looked pretty carefully at the plant. Gentiana androsii is listed as S2. There are 34 sites on iNaturalist, and then Gentiana clausa only has 12 sites. I think it should be the S2, and Gentiana androsii should be an S3. iNaturalist has 8,000 naturalists looking all through New Jersey, sometimes every day. There are 700,000 observations that have been listed online. You can go there and take a look. 4,000 species. So if you want to learn 4,000 species of plants in New Jersey, go to iNaturalist and take a look. This includes the fungi, mosses, algae, lichens, as well as the higher plants. Okay, these plants have been said to be a little difficult to grow. I haven't had too much trouble with them. Just make sure that the seeds never dry out, and never, never, never use chlorinated water. It kills swamp plants. Okay, here's how you set it up, how I set it up. I have two containers, one container with the potting soil and the seeds and the seedlings, and a second container underneath it with no drainage holes and half filled up with peat moss or potting soil. And what you do is you water the bottom container extensively, get it all saturated, and you can bring the water all the way up. And this will keep the seedlings moist for about 2 weeks. If you have to stay away longer than that, then you have to get your neighbor to help you water your plants for you. But this is for lazy gardeners who can't get out there every day. This really works pretty well for me. Okay, next plant is Virginia pennywort, Obularia virginica, S2 in several counties, as you can see. This plant has not been very well studied. It's a light greenish red color with reduced chlorophyll. The roots are very short and curly. They're called coralloid, and has a lot of mycorrhizae. It's kind of like an orchid. So it's probably a semi-parasite. It's up in early spring, little white flowers, whitish green flowers. iNaturalist has 82 observations, so it should probably be an S3. This was located for me by Gemma, and the Hunterdon chapter of the Native Plant Society gave me some hints as where to go also. Okay, another plant that I've listed here, even though it's an S4, because Gemma Millie told me where it was, showed us. In fact, she took us on the hike there. It's a strange plant. It has a single leaf, and this is the Tipillaria discolor. And the leaf is sort of green on the surface, and then the reverse side is reddish in several counties. The fruit is all the way on the right. It sends up one leaf, which is very active in the fall and even through the late fall. And then it's active again in the spring, and it survives the winter with a lot of antifreeze. So the leaves are functional in early spring and fall. And the reason for this is because it grows in deciduous cover, heavy deciduous cover, and it gets more light in spring and fall. And then at the end of late spring, the leaf dies down, which is kind of strange. And we get the flowering stalk. We hiked about almost a mile uphill 4 times to photograph this plant. The first 3 times, the plants weren't even open yet. The 4th time, it was raining, and we went anyway. And that's why all the plant on the right has a funny color, and the water drops all over. We came back the following year, took another trip up there to actually photograph the flowers with correct lighting and everything. The plant is about 6 inches to a foot tall. The leaves are about 2 to 3 inches long, and the flowers are about half-inch diameter. You look carefully, you can see the spurs, and they're fantastic. They're really much larger than the whole flower is. Okay, here's a detail of the flower, and you can go on our website, awesomenativeplants.info, and take a look at the details of the flower. So I won't go into all the details here. It's supposed to look like a crane fly. Okay, a very similar plant is the putty root orchid, but this is an S1 aplectum in Somerset, Hunterdon, and Mercer counties. That's where we found it. There's only one leaf. It's 3 to 6 inches long. It's about 2 or 3 times as large as the cranefly orchid, but very similar in many aspects. They both grow in the same area, and they both grow with deciduous wood cover. This plant is about 1 to 2 feet tall, and it has really nice flowers that look like orchids, because it is. It's an S1. The flowers are 1 inch to 1.5 inches in diameter, and the location for this plant was given to us by the Philadelphia Botanical Club field trip leader, Janet. So thank you, Janet, or else we wouldn't see this really beautiful plant. Okay, another plant that's rare in the Piedmont is the yellow or orange fringed orchid, Plantanthera ciliaris. It was at one time in Union County, no longer there. And the problem is that it requires moist acid bogs with frequent fires to suppress the taller vegetation. So you can imagine how many areas in Union County are available for it. It's about 1 to 3 feet tall, and these plants are from the Pine Barrens. Has a fairly wide basal leaf and narrower cauline leaves. We got the location from the Philadelphia Botanical Club, and Mike Hogan showed us plants on his in his yard. He has them growing in his yard. Okay, another very pretty orchid is Arethusa bulbosa, which is now very rare, extremely rare in New Jersey. S2. It was at one time in Middlesex and Bergen County, no longer there. It's about 6 inches to a foot or a little over a foot tall. Usually it has only one leaf. It's very pollinated kind of strangely. It's pollinated only by recently emerged inexperienced bumblebees. Okay, no other bumblebees will do. The experienced ones avoid this flower because there is no reward. It is sweet scented, but it has no nectar, and the bumblebees can't get at the pollen either very easily, so there's no reason to go to this flower, and they will avoid it. The location was shown to me by Mike Hogan, and also years ago by Bob Yannetti of Pennsauken, New Jersey, who was a Native Plant Society member, and flasked these orchids on standard orchid medium. There's a publication in 1996 on these orchids. It needs 4 to 6 month period of vernalization to break dormancy every year. I was flasking pink lady slippers at the same time as Bob was working on this plant, and I tried to break dormancy at 2 months, and I killed all my seedlings. So unfortunately, that experiment didn't work anymore. Okay, another rare orchid is purple fringed orchid, S2, in several counties, used to be in several counties in central New Jersey, in the Piedmont. It grows in damp, shaded or semi-shaded areas. It's named after Psyche, the Greek goddess, who often took the form of a winged fairy. And you can see the fairies, there's several of them over on the right. They have wings, I guess she has a skirt on and a very funny headpiece. Very big googly eyes, though. The flowers are about 3/4 of an inch on large spikes. The plants are 2 to 4 feet tall. I flasked this plant many years ago in tissue culture, and I gave some to Dr. Betty Knorr, our horticultural director, who raised it up to flowering in about 1990. So she was a very careful horticulture person who raised all sorts of rare native plants. Okay, another rare plant is purple milkweed. It's a beautiful plant, Sclepias purpurescens, S3, and it's about 3 feet tall at the tallest. Flower heads are 2 to 3 inches wide. Individual flowers about 1/2 inch in diameter. It grows in full sun or slight moderate shade in moist, slightly acid soil. This plant was shown to us by Dawn Pagoso, co-leader of the Hunterdon chapter, and we found some all by ourselves too. Okay, here's some details on the flower structure. You can go to awesomenativeplants.info and take a look at this a little more carefully. Petals, there's the hoods, horns, which we don't know what the function is. And the photograph on the right, the far right, shows the slit, detail of the slit. And that's where the pollen has to go in. And how this ever gets pollinated, I don't know. But that's the way it's constructed. Makes it difficult for the plants. The purple milkweed has a narrow fruiting body, as opposed to the common milkweed, which has a big plump capsule, and that's very spiky. And you can see the very silky insides, which was actually, we tried to spin that, and it's kind of brittle, so it doesn't work. Thomas Edison did try also to take the milkweed, the common milkweed, as a source for rubber, because rubber was very difficult to get during World War II. But the yield wasn't high enough, so it never became commercialized. Okay, another rare plant in the Piedmont is the green comet milkweed. It's an S2, and here he is there. It's not very conspicuous. The flower, I was waiting for the flower to do something. I thought they weren't open. Well, those are in full, that plant is in full bloom. The fruit is a narrow fruit like the purple milkweed. Plant's about 2 feet tall. The heads, these little green heads, are about 2 inches in diameter. And this was shown, the location was shown to us by Dawn. And so we're glad that she had this plant. Here's a close-up of it. And Millie was careful enough to notice that there was one of the pollen sacs apparatus that was deposited on top of the flower, which is not going to do much good. The pollen sac must go into those little slots, and how that ever happens, we're not sure, but it apparently does happen fairly often. The structure is very similar to the pollination system in orchids. Okay, you can go to Awesome Native Plants to get the details on that. Okay, another interesting plant in the Piedmonts, or supposed to be in the Piedmont, is American Jingson. I don't know if it's here anymore. We found this up north. This was on a field trip in 2017 by the Philadelphia Botanical Club and the American Botanical Society. They showed us one plant, and we found several other plants nearby in the same area. It's about 1 to 2 feet tall. The flowers are a tremendous 3 millimeters in diameter. The compound leaves take about 7 years to get the three leaves on a plant, and about 10 years to get 4 leaves on a plant. So it's a very slow growing plant. And that's why it's an S1. There are red berries in the fall, and you can see the 3 millimeter flower and about the 10 millimeter fruit that's developing underneath it. The fruits go up to are from about 10 to 20 millimeters in diameter when they're mature. The relatives are the dwarf jingson, sarsaparilla, and surprisingly, English ivy is a relative of American jingson. The doctrine of signatures was a belief that God was hinting about which plants are good for medicine. So if it looks like something, that's what it's good for. And the round-lobed hepatica leaf is good for the liver. And a lot of the hepaticas were transported to Europe, and that's why the hepaticas are not quite as common as they used to be. American jingson was a major export item to Asia in the 1700s. Hundreds of thousands of tons were transported each year, and Daniel Boone made his fortune by hunting wild jingson. The price for jingson, current price, is about $500 a pound. For commercial cultivated jingson, it's $20 a pound. And there are people, experts, who can tell the difference very easily by the color and shape of the roots. The current wholesale value of wild American jingson is about $27 million. It grows in 34 eastern states of the United States, and 15 of these do not permit any wild harvesting at all. 19 permit wild harvesting with permits and permission. And there's no harvesting on national parks at all, of course, but harvesting is permitted in some of the national forests. It's a pretty rare plant now, and it's almost extinct in the wild. Okay, American jingson looks like a man, so it is good for everything. Okay, I lost the, here we okay. Many studies have been done on jingson, and including the American jingson, but these studies only have about 100 people or less in them. So we say that jingson may reduce inflammation, may improve thinking, may treat erectile dysfunction, may lower blood sugar, may stimulate physical and mental activity, may reduce chronic fatigue, may reduce cancer-related fatigue, may improve cognitive function, and may prevent influenza and respiratory syncytial virus. So maybe it is true that it does, it's good for the whole body. The side effects are not too bad. It's fairly safe to consume. Millions of doses have been given out, so it's probably not too bad. People have reported some headaches, sleep problems, digestive problems, blood and sugar changes, diarrhea, severe skin reactions, and also changes in blood pressure. So it is pharmacologically active, so I wouldn't just take it without a little bit of care. Okay, another plant that we have a connection with is the purple phacelia. It's an S1. It was just discovered in 2008. The DEP made an announcement that here's a very rare plant that we overlooked for several hundred years. So it's been hiding for that long. Blooms in early spring. The first site that was discovered had hundreds of plants, but 15 years ago, but now there's only 30 plants or so left. The invasives are shading it out. New Jersey Native Plant Society made an attempt to help it out and preserve the site, and we're still trying to do something about that. It's a biennial. It's very easy to grow and buy. It's available several sources now. It's very hairy. The stamens have hairs on them, on the filaments, and I asked our local authorities for the location of the plant, and they wanted to keep it a secret. I can understand that because that's what I do also. But we got the location from a friend at the Philadelphia Botanical Club, and the butterfly people have all known about this for a long time. The picture on the far right lower portion is the white form. It's never been discussed anywhere in the literature, so maybe we're the first ones to see it, or at least the first ones to report it. Okay, another plant is wild comfrey. It's got a name change recently. S2 in central New Jersey. It has really large leaves. Some are up to about 8 inches long and 3 inches wide. The plant's 2 to 3 feet tall. Has these little tiny bluish white flowers, something that looks something like forget-me-nots. The fruits are very bristly, and it's toxic to livestock and probably people also. Location is from iNaturalist. There are 117 observations in New Jersey. So sort of questioning the S2, it should probably be an S3 in my estimation anyway. Okay, here's another lovely plant, the Eastern Scarlet Paintbrush. These pictures are all taken in North Carolina because we haven't seen this in New Jersey, and it probably isn't here anymore. It was at one time in several counties, as we'll show you. There's a close-up of the flower, and then on the bottom, one of these colored bracts. Okay, those aren't petals, those are bracts or leafy flowers that are supplementing the attracting insects and brightly colored. And there's a leaf all the way on the far right, the lower level. This was used by the American Indians as a secret love potion. And then it was also used as a poison to destroy your enemy. So it's got a dual purpose. If you want to see where the flower is, you can take a look at awesomnativeplants.info. And there's the flower, there's the pistil up in pink, and the anther is down in blue. And you can see all the bracts around it. That's what you see normally. You can hardly find the flowers. Okay, here's the sad story of the Eastern Scarlet Paintbrush. Before 1930, it was found in almost every county of New Jersey. So it was a pretty widespread plant. It's now listed as S1, and that may be incorrect. After 1930, on the right, Mary Ho from the Chrysler Herbarium in 1983 listed it in 4 of the northern New Jersey counties. And iNaturalist in 2023 has no sites listed for the Eastern Scarlet Paintbrush. It's probably been extirpated from New Jersey. It's a fairly conspicuous plant, so I can't imagine that anybody would miss that plant if we have 7,000 people tromping around New Jersey looking for plants, that you would actually miss this plant. So I'm fairly sure that it's been extirpated from New Jersey. If there are 1 or 2 plants left, I'd be kind of surprised. Okay, here's another story of an S1 plant, Southern Arrowhead, listed for Morris County. We saw that this rare plant was listed as an S1 on iNaturalist, and we said, all right, let's go find it. So the iNaturalist GPS location was very vague, as they quite often are. We got to the location and we saw a creek, and we said, well, let's try on the creek. So the creek was there was a bridge right over the creek, and we went on both sides of the bridge and looked all over, spent time tromping around. If you've ever tramped around a creek, you know it's kind of difficult because the vegetation quite often grows all the way down to the water, and a lot of vegetation. It's really hard to walk. So we got all worn out, and no arrowheads. There's some cardinal flowers, but no arrowheads. We also noticed that there was a trail nearby, and we said, well, most plants in New Jersey are located from trails because that's where you walk. And we tried walking down the trail for 200 feet and couldn't find any arrowheads. And I was about ready to give up almost. And Millie said, keep on going. Let's try a little further. So we looked a little further, and there they were. So here are the plants, the arrowhead plants. You can see the arrowheads on the left, female flowers to the top, and male flowers on the bottom. Those are our little logos there on the little squiggly logos on the flowers. Okay, you can identify the southern arrowhead by the fruits. And here's a developing fruit on the left and a more mature fruit on the right. And you can see, determine what species it is quite often by the angle of the beak. So if we assume that these plants are, fruits are held horizontally, the beak of Sagittaria australis is at a 45-degree angle, or Millie says 135 degrees, but I can't count that high. The beak on the achene of Sagittaria latifolia is at a 90-degree angle, so that's easy. That's easier. Okay, next slide is wood lily, beautiful lily, one of the prettiest lilies that we have. It's an S2. It was at one time in several counties on the Piedmont, no longer there as far as I know. It's the only lily that grows face up in New Jersey, at least. Most other ones grow sideways to protect the pollen, but this one is face up and lets this pollen take its chance. Location was given to me by Tom Hollowell, a botanist and butterfly enthusiast. We met at the Botanical Society meeting in 2017. It's commercially available, and my seedlings all died, so we're not growing it. Okay, another plant is the climbing fern, S2. It's a G4, so it's not that common anywhere in the world. Should have been in Mercer County. It's a vine, and the location was given to us by the Philadelphia Botanical Society. Okay, I think I hit this too hard. Okay, here it is. There is a climbing fern restoration project at Duke Gardens, and I visited them on 2021. And Duke Farms in Hillsborough is also working on restoring the Table Mountain pine. They've been working on it for several years now. Okay, another beautiful plant is the swamp pink. It's fairly rare in the world, G3. It's S3 in New Jersey, which has its probably largest population of Helonius bellata in the world. It was found in central New Jersey, but it's now restricted to the Pine Barrens. The Native Plant Society awarded a small grant to Mike Hogan to help him propagate and restore the swamp pink. I hope the Native Plant Society will keep up this kind of work, sponsor research and conservation. The location we got is from the Philadelphia Botanical Club. I think I went too far, sorry. Try that again. Okay, it's a fairly easy plant to grow. I've been growing for 20 or 30 years, sometimes successfully and sometimes not too well. It germinates very well, high percentage of germination. Seeds are a little dust-like and takes a little while for them to grow, but they do grow if you're careful. And you can get the adult plants as shown on the right. Okay, another interesting story is the yellow spring beauty. This is the Forma lutea, not the Hammond's spring beauty. It's not rated. It was found in Hunterdon, and it was discovered by Thomas Armstrong of the Native Plant Society of New Jersey in Reddington Township. in 2020. It's also been found in Pennsylvania and Maryland. It should not be confused with the Hammond's Spring Beauty, which is a nice bright yellow color and not this orangish color. And it's only found in northern New Jersey, Hammond's Spring Beauty. The common Spring Beauty is shown on the right, and it's a very, very common plant in New Jersey. The Native Plant Society of New Jersey with Dr. J. Kelly of Raritan Valley College was looking into trying to preserve this site, and that's still pending project. The New Jersey Native Plant Society has also presented Dr. J. Kelly with a small grant to help support restoration of the rare sea beach amaranth, which is a G2 S1 plant. Okay, and here's our last slide, Goldie's fern, G4 S2, so it's fairly rare, found in Hunterdon and Morris. And we found this all by ourselves along the trail. It's one of New Jersey's largest ferns. It's easy to buy, it's easy to grow. You just get little baby plants that come off the base, and you can separate them when they get larger, and you have a big collection of Goldie's fern, which is a very rare plant in New Jersey. Okay, so what can you do? If you're interested, you can learn more about rare plants at New Jersey Native Plant Society website, awesomenativeplant.info, the Philadelphia Botanical Club, iNaturalist, read about them, take field trips, and you can grow rare plants and have some one-of-a-kind plants in your very yard. So thank you all for watching. I hope you have learned something new about this and enjoyed looking at some of our rare New Jersey native plants. Hey.
Thanks, Hubert, and thanks for pinch hitting for Gemma on such short notice. We can always rely on you for awesome, informative presentations. So we have a couple questions, but first I wanted to ask about how you use iNaturalist and how if it's changed the way that you hike. And also somebody in Q&A just relating to iNaturalist has said that they use the privacy controls on iNaturalist to keep rare plants kind of hidden. But the way that the privacy controls works, it makes it look like the plant is actually more prolific than it actually is. And I was just wondering if you had any advice on using the controls in iNaturalist to more accurately portray a rare plant.
Well, the privacy controls can obscure the location. So I think it's kind of important to know how many are out there, because we don't, the records from the that are in the federal records run all the way back to the beginning of time, 1700s and so forth, maybe even the 1600s. So they don't reflect what's the accurate condition of the plant. And iNaturalist does more of that. You can tell that the plant is there in the state or not. And so I think it's nice to have a record that the plant is there and that it's in northern New Jersey, or maybe what county it's in. And so we usually let people know what county it's in and don't give them any information on exactly where in the county. And I think that's sort of what iNaturalist does too. So most of the time you can tell where it is. Every once in a while, they will just go ahead and give you the exact location within 3 feet or 10 feet. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for somebody who somehow or other didn't obscure the location. And because we want to photograph it and make a record that the plants are really there. and also verify the identity of the species. So it's a really great tool. Anyone can get on it. Just go to the iNaturalist, just hit an I and you get iNaturalist usually on Google. Sign in, register, and you can start identifying things. If you want to know what's around your area, you can look to see what everybody else has been identifying, right down on your own street quite often. And then you look at the picture and say, I've seen that. You list it on your site. You record that on iNaturalist, and then someone else will come along and verify that you have the correct identification. So if two people verify that you have that identification done correctly, then it sort of goes on as a expert identification, and you can sort of rely on that usually. So there are debates going on all the time, and some of the experts on some of the orchids list all their information on why they are giving the species designation to certain of these orchids. So this is ongoing, it's current, and it's the latest information on these orchids that you can't get anywhere else. And many of the professional botanists are using iNaturalist as a source of dispensing their information and having discussions on whether we should split two species apart or lump them together, or what we should do with these species.
Enough. Thanks for that answer, Hubert. There was a question concerning if there are any deer-resistant plants living in the Piedmont area, and that kind of dovetails with something that I was wondering about, is how do deer contribute to rare plants being unable to flourish?
Yeah, deer is probably the biggest problem, or maybe the second biggest. We're the biggest problem. We're paving everything over. We're changing the hydrology. We're chopping everything down, changing the environment. Deer are probably the second biggest problem. There's almost no such thing as a deer-resistant plant. They will eat holly, which I can't understand how anyone could eat holly, sticking a holly leaf in their mouth. I haven't tried it, and I'm not going to. And they will eat, they're eating Christmas fern in my yard. They're eating every plant that, almost every plant that is listed as deer resistant. And they will eat it because they bed down in my front yard. I'm trying to move them out a little bit, but they sleep there, I can tell, and I see them. And so I don't know if there's hardly anything that's deer resistant. They prefer certain plants, but they will eat almost anything. They eat bloodroot, they eat spice bush, they eat all the ferns, they nibble on my holly, and they don't like Andromeda very much, and they don't seem to eat the yew very much, or the some of the cultivated cedars. But yeah, they don't like the conifer plants very much. They love arborvitae though. They really eat that down to the stem, the trunk of the tree. So I wouldn't rely on any plant being deer resistant.
Well, we have time for one more question because we're coming right up on 12:15. Just real quick, do you have any advice on helping rare plants to proliferate? There was a question about in the Q&A about seed banks, and if there are any seed banks that are around that we could use, and if you could finish up just with your contact information, if you're willing to give that out.
Oh yeah, contact. You can contact me on the Native Plant Society website. Just go to horticulture, that's me, and I'll get the message. My email is also on Gardener News. I think it's one of our emails comes out of Gardener News. So if you get any article there, I'm listed there. Well, the thing that we can do is you have to contact people that are working on some of the rare plants, like Mike Hogan has a source of seeds for the swamp pink. And the other people don't want to release seeds generally either. You're not supposed to collect seeds from the parks or anything. And so if you can get this, if you get it from private land, that's fine. If the owner says you can take it, then they're available from private land. That's a little difficult to get. So what I think you should do is just grow the commercially available strains and not worry too much about the geographical locations. This is what the animal people do. And I know there's a big debate in the plant section, but animal people take animals from as far away from each other as they can that are still compatible, because that increases, it's called hybrid vigor, and it increases the stock, the vigor of the stock. The same thing is true for plants. There is hybrid vigor when you take plants from different regions. And I think you can introduce plants. In fact, I think you should introduce plants. No, not too many other people agree with me, but you should introduce plants from southern areas into New Jersey now, since it's getting warmer here.
And now I'm unmuted. Sorry, I have myself muted.
Okay.
Thanks for your presentation. Thanks for contributing to the Q&A. We really appreciate you here at the Native Plant Society. And I'm going to kick it back to Randy to introduce PED.